Okay, let's start. Yeah, hi everyone, and welcome to today's beta meeting. We have
Sorry, Sebastian.
two.
Uh,
Hi,
uh,
Romega.
is the meeting recorded?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Is Paul Kattner asked me to to have the links to the meeting.
It is recorded, but it is recorded using the Ceph upstream BlueJeans account, and I have no access to it. Do you?
No?
So I pinged Mike.
Yeah.
I pinged Mike a few days ago. Haven't got an answer.
Okay.
But if you have a way to access those recordings, that would be awesome.
I will take a look.
They used to get posted to YouTube, but
Yes, but they're
doesn't
posted
seem
to
like it's
YouTube.
super up to date.
Yeah, Mike is really good at it, but they're posted to YouTube maybe 2 weeks later. That worked
Yeah,
for everyone
like
else, except for people that are engaged in the development here, right? Because the Orchestrator meetings from 2 weeks ago is like having the news from last week. Yeah, thank you, Daniel. It's even linked
yeah,
in
it's
the Etherpad. If you have a look at the Etherpad, there is a in line 26. There is a recordings page. Anyway, maybe from Miguel, you can ping Mike again. Okay, let's see. What else do we have on the agenda? We have that Temperbright issue. That's pull request 42378. That's about disabling the admin account, and in itself, that's good. But changing the template, the Ginger 2 template, or recommending to change the Ginger 2 template is problematic because it's going to be persistently saved. And if we are rolling out a new release with the new date, the user is not going to benefit from it. It could even mean that the daemons deployed are broken or so. Which means that whenever you're going to upgrade, you have to make sure that the default template is still compatible to the overwritten template that you have used. And what do we want to do? I think we've discussed it in a stand-up last week. We have two options. Option one is to put all switches into the YAML spec file that we are using. The pros and cons are both, right? And the alternative is to use to continue using the Ginger 2 template. Downside for putting all the switches into the YAML file is that we're going to end up like a Helm chart. And the downside for continuing changing the Ginger 2 template is the Ceph upgrade issue. And I don't know. What do you guys think? What do you folks think?
What about to have? Go ahead, Daniel.
Oh, I was just going to say there's also the downside
Make
that
it.
this forces the user to understand the internals of
Yes.
the orchestrator. So some of these variables are kind of magic. That's unfortunate.
So we have good downsides for both approaches, but I guess that's it, right? Is there any other way we can use?
I think that maybe there is a possibility that is to have separate places for standard templates and customized templates for the user. So if the user is selecting a customized template, this is outside the official folder. There is not going to be the possibility to override the default template that we are deploying with the container or with the deployment of the Ceph ADM. So
That's not the biggest issue because a user can always reset the template overwritten and let it reset to the default that we are shipping. That's always a possibility. It's just that when doing a Ceph upgrade and we are shipping a new template in a new manager container, that new default is never going to end up in the deployed daemons because the user has a config key setting overwriting the default, the templates, not the default template, but the template. So it's stored in the config key store in the monitor. So it's safe, right? We are not forcing users to overwrite the default template. That would be that would be really evil. But it's possible to store them in config key, but nevertheless, we have the downsides of the upgrade issue and exposing internals. Daniel? No. Okay, Mike, do you have a better idea? Do you have an answer?
I wish I did. But so the thing is, like, exposing the internals, we'd kind of be doing that in YAML anyway, right? I mean, HTTP port will become HTTP port. I mean, they kind of become one-to-one mapping. In my mind, it's almost like there's more than just, like, we need templating for some of these things, but we also need a way for users to define their own custom configuration somehow. Just custom config files generically. Maybe as part of the YAML string, I don't know. But that's harder to templatize. So.
We could. Okay. At some point we introduced that spec sub object in those YAML files, right? So if you have I'm writing something down in the other pad here. So if you have a service type NTW, and you have some additional properties of that YAML file, and a spec object within the YAML file, and there we have NTW realm at the bad at the bad example, but we could make all those additional spec attributes accessible from the templates. which means that we would not need to that we would not keep everything explicitly in the in Ceph ADM, but we could make it possible for users to write additional arbitrary files to the spec file, plus making it possible to overwrite the template file and then having the possibility for users to first change the template and second use custom fields in the spec files to override the template. I don't know. Does it make sense? I don't know.
I was thinking along that path. I mean, it could be like a files or a templates section in the spec, but the complexity of the spec continues to grow when we do this. And I think there are some things in the orchestrator that are hard to templatize. So like the HTTP start port for HA proxy, things like that. But maybe they're covered elsewhere.
We could. I mean, Jinja 2 is extremely expressive. We can do a lot with Jinja 2.
Mm-hmm. But I do somewhat like the concept that these are all in the same place. So you can dump a YAML for a service and you have all of the declarative context for that service.
Okay. Nate, did you got the topics that we're discussing right now?
No, I just joined. I'm on my phone, so I can't see the agenda. What are we talking about?
Okay. We are talking about that the user is not really able to benefit from new default templates if a user changes the template in a config key setting.
Right. Oh yeah. I think I put something in the pad. I think this is a problem because you can't see the defaults, you can't see the current value, you can't see how it differs. I think we should just add like a whole new set of CLI commands that will like list the templates, let you fetch the current value of the template, fetch the default value, disk the current value with the default, and set the default or set the
Doesn't
whatever.
solve the problem that the user is not going to benefit from new default templates.
Yeah, it doesn't. But we can, after the upgrade, they can then go look at the diff. Or it could be that we upgrade. When we upgrade, we take the diff and then apply it to the new one. I mean, it's like I think there's no good answer here. It's like if you upgrade a Debian package and you've modified a configuration file, it always prompts you like, do you want to take the new one, keep yours, or look at the difference and maybe apply the diff. I don't know exactly what the options are, but like it'll depend on what the change is with the template, which one makes sense, right?
I don't think that a final user that is modifying a template is going to be very happy if we replace them again for something new or upgrade it. Okay, so I think that if well, probably the user what he wants to have is always the same template and only changing that template if these changes are doing are executed by himself.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like at a minimum we need to have the tools to be able to like see your template versus the default in the diff. But probably the end result is just that after you do the upgrade, you should, as a next step, go look at the diffs, re-examine your templates, and see if they've changed. Yeah.
Not really a fan of uh, that.
You have a, I mean, is
That's
there an
your
alternative?
command.
Like what else could you do?
I don't know. Adam, do you have a better idea?
Not really. Diffing all the templates sounds really complicated, but it seems like other than that, we just have to have like a million different options in the YAMLs.
Yeah.
We could even allow users to do a three-way diff.
Yeah. I mean, the upgrade is another issue because it's not interactive, so you can't like prompt them for what they want to do with their template if it happens to change. But you could like log something maybe, or I don't know, generate some report somewhere so they can see what the difference is. Somehow flag it. But I mean, even independent of the upgrade, like just having, it seems like at a bare minimum you have to have the ability to see what the template should be without having to have them go look in Git or like inside the container image to go copy a file to start with, right? Like they should be able to see what the templates are that can be changed. They should see what the current value is. They should be able to see what the default is. Like that's, I don't know, that feels like a minimum. If we like want to invest any effort in them being able to customize these templates. Otherwise, we just say you're on your own and go read the source code every time you upgrade to see if there's a problem. But this isn't supported, right? I think we can do better than that. It feels like they feel like it's like would be pretty easy to implement and document. And if we just say after an upgrade, go recheck your diffs for your templates if you customize them, then like that would be enough.
Do we know when a user did set a config key setting?
We can get a notification of that, yeah. But I think for these templates, I think we should just not make them do that, but have them set the have a CLI to set the template separately, right?
Would be great to know if the default template changed before a user did the custom template, or if the default template got a newer version since a user changed the set a custom template. But
Well,
we
if we
know
have a
which is
command,
newer.
then we could store that information, right?
Yep. Still not a big.
Yeah.
Or we just invest the time and put everything into the template, what we can think of, or what a user demands, and then we are just editing everything.
Yeah. I mean, we could do some of that anyway, but it's never going to be enough, right? There's always going to be something that they either don't want or do want that we don't support. So, seems easier to focus on the things that are important and then have an escape hatch, backdoor or whatever.
That's the backdoor is already there. It just solidifies the backdoor.
Yeah.
Backdoor a tiny bit more user friendly.
Yeah. Okay, thanks. Sorry, that was for someone else.
Yeah, I don't know. Daniel, do you have a better option, better idea?
Not really. It seems like all the options have one downside either way.
Okay. Okay, anyway. Anyway, let's see. We don't need to decide that here today. We can postpone it until we can move it to the pull request discussion and then think about it maybe a day or two. Okay. So another topic that we have for today is that the manager is stuck for 15 minutes in the Ceph loop. Daniel, do you wanna just briefly explain what happens and why?
Yep. Yeah, I'll put the tracker in the chat. Talk. But so basically, if you have an offline host or a host that goes offline, um, the next time the serve loop comes around, it's gonna try to run the gather facts, refresh hosts and daemons, which will try to run gather facts, run Ceph ADM gather facts. And at that point, Ceph ADM hasn't realized that the host is offline yet, so it's going to go through the whole process of it goes through a bunch of functions and stuff, but it's eventually going to call some remoto functions that are going to try to either create a connection to that host or use an existing one. And if the timing is correct, it'll have an existing connection to that host, even though the host is actually offline. And then it's going to try to SSH into the host and run the gather facts command. And the connection it's using isn't going to work because the host is offline. And then there's like a 15-minute period where it's trying to do that, and then eventually will error out. But during that 15 minutes, the serve loop is stuck. It will error out after the 15 minutes and mark the host as offline after, and everything kind of goes back to normal. But for 15 minutes, it's stuck. In the tracker, I put a bunch of details about what functions and what lines are causing it and what's happening, and a log of it happening. I don't really know if there's a great solution. I know Melissa was working on changing the whole SSH backend system, so maybe her async SSH thing might be able to resolve this. Or the agent thing that Adam did is working on. I don't know if that would make a big difference with this or not, but yeah, that's the gist of the problem.
I think the agent is going to, because we're just not going to use to call the remote host that often. It's still going to be a problem when when deployed, but for just getting a refresh of the status, I really think the agent is really going to help here.
There's some way we can just add like a timeout to this. Like 15 minutes is a really long time for it to get stuck. If we could just lower that by like a lot, because this is a really rare timing. I feel like go offline right as it's already has a connection. It's about to do something. If we could just have that maybe only be like a minute, it wouldn't even really be a big deal because of how rare it is.
Can we lower the timeout? How?
There's not currently there's no timeout. That 15, I'm not exactly sure where that 15 minutes is coming from. It's very consistent 15 minutes. I'm assuming it has something to do with the SSH or Remoto stuff. I don't know. I assume we could probably add a timeout to it. I'm not sure. But
there is a TCP keep alive thing in the setting that we could use. I don't know. Or do we really need to care? Or do we just want to look into the agent and see how things are improving with the agent?
well, yeah. I mean, if the agent makes this problem go away, then that's fine. Like I said, it's not the end of the world. I mean, the manager is stuck for 15 minutes, but after that 15 minutes, it does resolve itself and mark the host as offline, and the problem doesn't continue. So, but there is a small window of 15 minutes where you're stuck.
I would just wait for the agent and see if it improves things. Honestly.
I mean, even regardless, shouldn't this be super uncommon? Because it doesn't have to like make a connection like as the host goes offline, and then it has to be like what to do something. Like hosts going offline super often, and then it has to be at a very specific timing when it goes offline. Seems like unless you're purposely testing things going offline, you wouldn't see this very often. I don't know how big of a deal it was going to end up being in practice.
Yeah, I mean, I've been able to reproduce it like very consistently, but obviously, I'm like trying to I'm manually putting hosts offline for that to happen. So I don't know how exactly it would behave in like a real world cluster. I would think, I mean, based on what I figured out, it seems like this should happen almost every time though, because the only way a host gets marked offline is if there's a function in the Remoto stuff that tries to create the connection, and if it fails to do that, that's when the host gets marked offline. And usually there's already an existing connection to the host, and it's just going to use that and bypass the part of the code where it marks the host. It could fail and mark the host offline.
I'll have to mess with it a little bit and see if I can. I'm gonna look at it some myself. See if it's like how often. Well, yeah, I'll look at it some more. Yeah, I'll message you later. I like. I haven't reproduced it personally, so I'll have to look at it. But if it's actually seems like it's something that happens almost every time it goes offline, we probably should see if we can maybe put a timeout in, and then it'll hopefully just go away once we replace this stage library.
All right.
Melissa, do you know if Async SSH supports the TCP keep alive setting of SSH?
Yeah, I think it does. I was reading something, and it does support the keep alive function, for the TCP thing. And if it's related, like in my like implementation of like the async SSH stuff, for running the commands, if the connection is broken, it like returns an async SSH error, and then I just like reset the connection. So I don't know if that would fix that.
Depends a bit on how fast it is, right? And how fast you're getting information about it. If it takes 15 minutes for you to get notified, or yeah. Anyway, I think we shouldn't do anything about it right now and just wait for the Async SSH library or the agent and see if things are improving then, and if not, let's reiterate. That's okay for you?
Yeah, that's fine.
Perfect. That's it what we had on the agenda for today. Is there anything else? nothing. Okay. See you next week. And yeah, have a nice day.